Today we're making Starbucks Copycat Salted Caramel Cake Pops. I'm gonna walk you through each step and give you all the tips and tricks I've learned along the way through my experience. To get started, like any cake pop, we need to make some cake. I've chosen this box because it says it's chocolate and fudgy, which is perfect. Pick your favorite brand or whatever's still on the shelf at the store. Make the cake as directed on the back of the package. Once your cake is cooled completely, we're gonna mash it up with our handy dandy potato masher. It doesn't matter how you do it, just as long as the cake is in small pieces. Next, we're gonna add in some frosting. The amount of frosting will depend on how moist your cake is. I remember my first experience making cake pops and I added way too much frosting and pretty much made a huge mess of the whole thing. Now I'm super cautious with how much frosting I add. You can always add more, you can't really take away once you've started mixing. I would recommend adding a spoonful or two at a time. You want your cake and frosting to come together just enough so that it holds together when you roll it into a ball. If you've got cake bits breaking off while you're trying to roll it into a ball, then you need more frosting. You'll know if your cake ball has too much frosting if it can't hold its shape after you balled it up and it's just too wet. You want a firm little cake ball like this. Here I'm using a cookie scooper, about a tablespoon's worth. This helps keep all of the cake balls the same size. Take your cake and roll it into a ball with your hands and place your cake balls on a parchment-lined baking sheet. Once all of your cake balls are ready, we're gonna stick them in the fridge for 30 minutes. This is very important, you can't skip this part. While the cake balls are in the fridge, let's talk about the chocolate. This brand is called Make and Mold and I purchased it from Hobby Lobby. I like to melt mine in the microwave for about 1.5 minutes and I stir it every 20 seconds or so. The consistency of this brand is pretty good, but I really want a nice smooth shell for my cake pops, so we're gonna thin this out a little bit with some vegetable oil. Ta-da! Tip number 1, use vegetable oil to thin out your chocolate. The key to a thinner chocolate is the vegetable oil or any neutral flavor, basically taste-free oil. Add a little at a time until you reach a consistency that you're happy with. It doesn't take a lot to thin out the chocolate, at least not with this brand. How much oil you need will depend on the brand of melting candies you use. Since we're dipping our cake balls, I want to use something tall and slender like this Irish coffee mug. Honestly, anything tall and slender should work. Pour in your chocolate. Next, grab your cake pop stick, or in my case, I have these skewers. Tip number 2, you want to insert your stick or skewer in the same side your cake pop was sitting on. Your cake pops are naturally going to have a slight tiny flat indent on the bottom from sitting on the baking sheet while in the fridge. It's okay, nobody's going to notice. That's why we want to stick our stick in the center of that flat side. To make sure your cake pop doesn't come sliding off during the dipping process, I shove that skewer about 80% of the way in. Take your cake pop and lower it into your chocolate. It's natural to have a lot of excess chocolate dripping from your cake pop. Tip number 3, lightly tap your cake pop stick on the side of your cup to help speed up this gravity process. You want to do this until the majority of the excess chocolate has fallen off. And because your cake balls were just pulled from the fridge, they should still be pretty chilled. So basically from the moment you dip them in chocolate and pull them out, the cake pop's coldness has already started to harden the chocolate. So getting that excess chocolate off faster by tapping it on the side of the cup just helps move it along before it all hardens into a weird lumpy shape, if that makes sense. When you notice the dripping is starting to slow down, it's time to twist the cake ball around so that drip tail has a chance to settle back into the chocolate before it completely hardens. If for some reason you don't like the way your cake pop shell turned out, maybe it's too lumpy or it just wasn't coated right, give it another dip. Another dip isn't gonna hurt. Once you're satisfied with your cake pops, we're gonna place it on this styrofoam block. I picked this up from the floral craft section in Walmart. A cardboard box with holes works too. Next is the white chocolate drip on top. We're gonna do everything the same as before, into the microwave, mixing every few seconds. We're also gonna add in some vegetable oil here, but not as much as we did with the chocolate shell. Just a little bit less. For this, we're gonna use a piping bag. Since this is our first time making these, pick your worst cake pop out of the bunch. This will be our test dummy. I thought I should try piping out a drizzle line and then filling in the rest. No, don't do that. That was not a good idea. This is why you try your techniques out first on your worst looking cake pops. Okay, different approach. Slowly squeeze out your chocolate from the very top. There, that was perfect. Let's do it again. Okay, give your chocolate a gentle squeeze and move your piping bag around the top ever so slightly to get that even distribution of chocolate. Tip number 4, sometimes you want to tap the bottom of your stick on the counter. That helps smooth out the chocolate. To stop your chocolate from rolling down further on the cake pop, rotate your cake pop like so and give it a gentle twist until your chocolate has firmed up enough to stop moving. Place it back on the styrofoam block and continue with the rest. If you think your white chocolate is too thin and it's just running all over the place and making a huge mess, put it back in your bowl, add a few more melting candies to offset that vegetable oil and microwave it, and you'll be good to try again. The only thing left to do is add on the caramel drizzle and sprinkle on a little sea salt. I suppose you could make your own, but I'm almost positive when you get to this point, you won't give a flying squirrel if your caramel comes from a package versus homemade. I certainly didn't. There are microwave instructions on the back of the package, but the general breakdown is however much caramel you want, plus a little bit of water, like a teaspoon or so. This is the sea salt I'm using. It's coarse, so it's nice and chunky. I'm pretty sure there's no specific way Starbucks drizzles on their caramel, so no need to be particular about it, just squeeze and do some loops. That ought to do the trick. Top it with some sea salt caramel and you're done! As a side note, I know some of you were asking me about my St. Patrick's Day cake ball video and asked how did I remove them from the skewer. I waited until the cake pop was completely set, grabbed it quickly like so, and twisted the skewer and pulled. And here they are, all finished. If you're worried about the caramel getting too soft or starting to drip, stick your cake pops in the fridge and the caramel will stiffen right up. If these are for an event, don't worry, the caramel will soften back up once the cake balls come to about room temperature. If you're making these for kids, I would definitely suggest using cake pop sticks instead of skewers like I did. Cake pop sticks are far more safe and don't have a pointy end. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, I hope you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.